As you can see, it was a wet and also quite cold Georgia February morning. The forecast for the day was more of the same, and I was definitely a bit nervous that the windy roads we hoped to drive would be a bit too dangerous to be fun. I was set to meet my buddy Ravi and his black Mustang at the Deals Gap General Store, which sits at the foot of the Dragon. On the way, I decided to stop at McDonald's to get some breakfast and take a bathroom break, and was surprised when eating my McMuffin to see Ravi walking into the same McDonald's.
Ravi!
From there, we headed up the rest of the way together. As we progressed, the terrain became more mountainous and beautiful, and eventually the roads became more fun to drive. As we started to get higher into the mountains and closer to Tail of the Dragon, I noticed not only how windy and narrow the roads had become, but also how little embankment was available if you went a little off the road. Our plan was to stop at the Deals Gap General Store, allow our engines and brakes to cool, and take a quick bio break and have a look around the store. However, that didn't quite go as planned.
It's closed.
So despite the general store being closed, we still ended up parking and letting our cars cool down. We opened our hoods to allow the engines to cool, and we spent about 20 minutes there. We walked over to the Tree of Shame, which is this makeshift monument to all of the people who have wrecked their bikes or cars driving the Dragon. It's mostly made up of fenders and handlebars and other parts from motorcycles, but it was really neat to see, so we took a picture in front of it, and then we got back on the road.
All right, you ready? Here we go.
So as you can see, I was pretty nervous at the beginning that the GoPro was just going to fly off the sunroof. I kept looking up at it just to make sure it was still suction cup down, but the suction cups hold really well. And I tested this a bunch of times, but once you get going, you're just afraid it's going to fly off. So right here we crossed into Tennessee, and you can see the roads are quite a bit different. They're not nearly as nice as the ones that were on the North Carolina side. And this is where the road also gets really windy, twisty, and narrow. And it had a ton of gravel as we were out there. So it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to get from one end to the other, and a lot of that is also dependent on how much traffic you have on the road and how you kind of drive it. I kept about 5 minutes of that footage here in this video. I do plan on posting the full footage in a different video, but as always, you can also use the chapter markers below if you'd like to skip ahead into another part of this video. As you can see, anytime you have any little bit of acceleration, you're immediately hit with another corner. You stay really in second, third gear at most as you're going through this. As we progress, motion sickness definitely started to set in, and I don't usually experience motion sickness when I'm driving a car. I can get it if I'm like riding a roller coaster or if I was a passenger, especially in a back seat on some of these mountain roads, but generally driving I don't. But this was absolutely so windy that by the time I was about halfway through, I was definitely feeling it. As you can see, we didn't pass a ton of cars while we were out there, but we did pass this bright yellow Porsche. I think it's a 911 from the late 90s or early 2000s, but I don't know my Porsches that well, so if you know, please leave a comment below.
Where are my brakes?
So you can hear me inquire here, where are my brakes? Like, I really felt like my brakes were completely lost, but the reality is they just got hot and I just had less feel in the pedal than I was used to. It was more mushy. I did a full brake overhaul in December, so I'd been driving on this new braking system for about 2 months. I went with EBC yellow pads, I had slotted rotors, I put in stainless steel brake lines, I put in Castrol SRF racing fluid, and that makes for some very, very stiff brakes under normal circumstances. The EBC yellow pads are really good under cold conditions, but they changed to a new compound in 2021, and this new compound is not rated for the track anymore. Not that this is a track, but your brakes get so hot driving Tail of the Dragon that it's basically like you're putting it through track conditions to a certain degree. So the pedal just got a little bit more mushy, and it took me a little while for me to figure back out how much brake pressure I needed to apply to be safe while driving this road. So that's one thing I learned doing this that'll really help me as I go to the track next.
With my other view, probably going to be stuck back here for some time.
As this is a local road, you'll sometimes get caught by slow-going cars. I was a little bummed to get stuck behind the CRV, so I pulled off to the side for a little bit and then went back out to see if I could get a little bit more time at speed, but I eventually caught up to the car again. So when we got to the bottom, we spent about 30 minutes just letting our engines and our brakes cool down. We just hung out a little bit, took some pictures and waited, walked around and viewed some of the scenery. Eventually we packed up and decided to head back the other direction. This time I let Ravi lead and I followed. I was still dealing with a bit of motion sickness as we headed back up the mountain, and quite honestly, the top camera died halfway through the drive anyway, so I didn't really push it too hard, and so I don't really have a lot of great footage. Eventually, we arrived back at the Deals Gap Motorcycle Resort, and we parked our cars again to give both the engines and the brakes a little bit of a rest before we headed on to lunch. Hey, before we get back to the rest of the video, do you mind giving me a like and a subscribe? Or leave a comment below. That's actually my favorite part. I love to hear from you all. I try to respond to literally every single comment, so please leave a comment below. And if you're interested, I've started an Instagram page where I'm tracking a little bit more frequently what I'm doing with the car. Making YouTube videos is hard and it takes a long time, so follow me on Instagram if you want to learn more about what I'm doing with the Audi S5. All right, back to the video. We decided to have lunch at the historic Tapoco Lodge and Resort since the places at the Tail of the Dragon were closed. This ended up being the way better option. The lodge is situated right on the banks of the Cherohala River and is both a hotel and gift shop, restaurant. It has adventure activities as well that I'm sure opened during the summer, but it was pretty dead when we were there. Of course, we were just there to enjoy a beer and some food, and we were pretty hungry, so maybe that made everything taste better, but the food was exceptional. I'm actually excited to go back there sometime in the future. After we're all done and wrapped up, we headed back to the cars to continue our journey. After lunch, we left the Tapoco Lodge and headed south on US Highway 129 following the Cherohala River. At some point, we had taken a wrong turn and gotten stuck on some pretty nasty gravel roads, but we made our way back to 129 and continued on south. We eventually turned onto the Cherohala Skyway and began our ascent. Now, the Cherohala Skyway is 41 miles long, with 18 miles of it in North Carolina and the other 23 miles in Tennessee. So you need to make sure also you have enough gas to get to the other side because there's really nothing up there but a bunch of scenic overlooks. As we started to ascend to the 5,200 feet at the top of Cherohala Skyway, we had this thick fog that I'm sure movie directors dream about, and eventually we came upon snow.
No, I missed it. Oh, yeah. Oh, on the left. That is snow. Oh, no. Holy crap. It must have been snowing up here for a while.
These roads can get really dangerous as the weather conditions change from the top to the bottom pretty dramatically, as you can see. On the North Carolina side, they do plow them and they do salt them occasionally. On the Tennessee side, they don't, so you have to be very careful. And we just happened to catch us at the right time, so we decided to pull over and mount the cameras up again.
Ah, they're both going. Let's go. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I'm numb. I'm literally numb.
So before, when I said I'm numb, I wasn't lying. It had gotten so cold that you can see how quickly Ravi's camera froze over. His camera was mounted to the front of the car, and so it was heading straight into the wind and straight into the rain, and it just froze over in a matter of minutes.
I'm sure it looks crazy. Ravi, go look at the lens. Touch the lens. Oh! It's frozen! This one's gonna have to go in the car.
At the beginning of the day, I was kind of bummed that it was going to be overcast and rainy, but when we got to the top of Cherohala Skyway and to see these snow-capped trees and snow on the side of the road and this beautiful fog, it was really an awesome day, and it was very serendipitous that we happened to go on this day when we'd have snow and this kind of weather. It ended up being a much different type of scenery that I'd not really experienced on roads like this. Thanks again for joining me on this journey. I hope to do more videos like this in the future. They do take a lot of time and energy and effort. So if you don't mind giving the video a like or the channel a subscribe or leaving a comment below, I appreciate any or all of those things. I have a couple track days coming up soon, one at Barber Motorsports Park in April, and then I plan to do Road Atlanta in June. And so I plan to do videos on both of those events. So definitely subscribe if you'd like to see some of those. And then if you want some more frequent updates from me as far as what I'm doing to the car, please give me a follow on my Instagram page and you'll see some more videos and photos come out through Instagram. All right, thanks. Bye.